Today we're looking at one of the doubts that keeps people from following Jesus, and that is the doubt that says that science has disproved Christianity. They have trouble finding where science and faith fit together, and that can become a problem. So we're going to take a look at that today. It's such a huge thing, we could spend hours. We're just going to take a couple little points and at least just try to get into some of the root of the issue that's here. A few centuries back, when modern science was taking a big leap, science grew because people wanted to find out and understand about the world that God had made. People were curious about everything in nature, both beyond the stars and on the earth and in our bodies, and began to study and to try to understand how everything worked. And as they began to do that, they were doing it because they realized God made all of this. And we want to be able to glory in the things that God had made, not because God made them, but because God is behind them. And we see reflections of God in everything that we study and understand. And when we see that, it's a beautiful thing to turn around and give God the glory for the wonderful things that he made. And so scientific exploration and understanding began to grow and grow and grow. But something happened back in the 1800s. It began to be where instead of discovering things so that we could give God glory, it turned around and said, well, we want to understand things so that man will get the glory. Forget this God thing. Put him out of the equation. And people began studying things not to try to give God glory, but in order to be able to glorify the human mind and science itself. And since that time, there's been a struggle between science and faith, because the scientists have began to push faith out of the picture and said that there's got to be a natural understanding to everything, and they want to leave out the supernatural, leave out where God fits into it. Among the members of the National Academy of Sciences, there's only 7% who believe in a personal God. It's an area of study where the majority of the people that are involved in it have pushed God out of the picture. And so, as what they do trickles down into society, the documentaries we see on TV, the textbooks that are in the classroom, want to leave out God as much as possible because of that influence that's there. But do we have to choose science or faith? Do we have to choose between the two? Is there a way that we can go back to those original scientists back in the end of the Middle Ages that began to say, how can we study the world and give glory to God and bring that together again? And that's kind of our focus today, is bringing those two back together where they need to be. First of all, let's just talk about miracles. Miracles are things that happen supernaturally. And we have that word supernaturally because naturally you cannot explain them. And the Bible's full of miracles. How God did miracles, parting the Red Sea, Jesus walking on the water, healing the blind and the deaf and the lame, even raising people from the dead, turning water into wine. I mean, there are so many miracles that are there. And you even, sometimes you get these shows on TV where scientists try to explain naturally how did these things in the Bible happen, and they come up with a natural explanation to them. Because again, they want to leave God out of the picture. But as people of faith, we say that whether there's a natural explanation or not, God did it. And we trust that God could speak, God can move, God can think, and he can cause things to happen that go against the laws of nature. I mean, Ron here, what he shared just a little bit ago, the doctors can't explain it. Why did, in an instant, he was able to get up and walk and the pain went away? But there's no explanation for it, except that God touched his body and brought some healing to it. And we all know of stories of things we can't explain, whether it's related to our health, whether it's related to nature or different things that happen. You know, if we could get up and all share our miracle stories. We've all got a few where we've experienced something that can't be explained naturally, and it has to be supernatural. But the problem with accepting the supernatural, the scientists who want to leave God out of the picture, the reason that they don't want God in the picture is because if we're going to explain the supernatural, then we have to admit the presence of a God behind the supernatural. Let's say, for example, that if a science is going to admit that there are such a thing as miracles and supernatural, then there has to be a force or a God behind it that makes it happen. And if there is a God behind the force that makes it happen, then it's probable that God has a purpose and a reason for the things that go on onto this earth. And he created things with a certain order, in a natural order. And the supernatural conflicts with that. And so they have to struggle with that. Here's the natural way things are, and here's a supernatural thing. And as they work through that, there's a purpose and an order behind everything that happens. And if there is a purpose and order to everything that happens, then there's a purpose and order to our own individual lives, which meant that we were created for a purpose, that we have a reason for being alive. And if we have a reason for being alive, then it's our job to discover what is that purpose. If I was created for something, what was I created for? And as we explore even further, we find out that God created us to be able to have a relationship with us, to be able to have us reflect him here on earth and have that relationship be so that more people will know about Jesus himself too. And when we learn about those things, it becomes a personal choice. And that scientist who doesn't want to believe in the supernatural is actually saying, I don't want to have a personal relationship with God because that changes everything in my life. And so there's kind of a sequence of events as you go back. And so many people will say, science is a good wall to stand behind. Because if I just trust science and leave out faith, leave out the supernatural, then I don't have to give account to God for anything personally. Because everything is a part of the scientific order and natural way things are. And so if I feel like doing this, well, that's just because that's the way I am naturally. If I want to cross this line that faith says don't cross, then science gives an excuse that to be able to cross that line and say that line doesn't even exist. And so when it comes to it, science can be a wall that people stand behind in order to deny their personal responsibility of having a God and having a relationship with him. But it doesn't have to be that way. Science can be our friend. Science is something we can embrace and we can understand and learn things so that we can give God glory. Because as we capture the wonder of everything that he's made, when we capture the detail and the order and the purpose, and I mean, our own body has all these different systems going on at once that all work together in harmony. And when we study that and we see how this all works, we go, wow, there was a design behind it, which means that there's a designer, which means that there's somebody that's bigger and greater than me and loves me so much that he made my body so it would work so perfectly and allows us to be able to worship God and to seek him in a very personal way. And so science can lead us to a personal, closer relationship with the God, the creator of all things. But there are things in life we don't understand, and that's okay. We don't have to understand it all. There are many mysteries to life, and God's equipped us to be able to uncover many of those mysteries of life, but there's some mysteries of life that we'll never uncover. There are some things that are meant to be secret. In the Old Testament book of Job, we find a man who was asking God, God, explain to me why I've had all this suffering in my life, why my life hasn't gone the way that it should be. He wanted an answer to that. But God basically said, I'm going to leave it as a mystery. And when Job was asking God about it, God said, trust me. There's enough mysteries in this world that I'm in control of. Just trust me. And God gives him a list of many of those mysteries that relate to science, to creation, to nature. And I wanted to read a few of those. And as I read these, you can think about it yourself. And some of these things, we even have since then uncovered a little bit of the mysteries of some of these things. So it's really amazing here. But it says that the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who shut the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? And when I made clouds and garments and the thick dwelling in swaddling band and prescribed limits for it and set bars and doors and said, thus far shall you come and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. God set the margins of the seas. Have you commanded the morning since your days began and caused the dawn to know its place? Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And where is the place of darkness, that you may take to it its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? Have you entered the storehouses of snow? Have you seen the storehouses of the hail that even fell last evening? What is the way to the place, where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? We definitely feel the effects of wind, but where does it come from? Where does it start? How does it gain its strength? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings that they may go and say to you, here we are? Do you know when the mountain goats give birth, or you observe the calving of the does? I mean, now they have these cameras they can set up so we can see how a baby deer is born, but on our own we would never be able to witness that, would we? The mystery of it. Do you give the horse his might? Do you clothe his neck with a mane? Do you make him leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. He paws in the valley. He exults in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons, and he laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not turn back from the sword. Upon him rattle the quiver, the flashing spear and the javelin. With fierceness and rage he swallows the ground. He cannot stand still at the sight of the trumpet. When the trumpet sounds, he says, aha! And he smells the battle from afar, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. You ever thought about that? I mean, horses just go into battle and they're not thinking, oh, is this going to be my last day on earth? I mean, they don't. There's a mystery to it. God has equipped them even for the day of battle. Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high, on the rock that he dwells and makes his home, on the rocky crag and stronghold? From there he spies out his prey. His eyes behold it from far away. I mean, a lot of the things that go on in this world we know about now, but we only know so far, but there's always one step behind it that we don't understand. There's a mystery to it. There's a mystery to why that eagle chose that particular spot. No one's telling that eagle what to do, but God has put within it life, and God's put within it the ability to do what the eagle was created to do. And the same thing for lightning and snow and wind and the sun and the waves of the earth. They've all been put together to accomplish the purpose that God has put in them. And if God's done it for each of them, He's done it for each of us as well. He's given us a purpose, and He's given us limits within that purpose. He's given us a focus on that purpose so that we can understand what God has for us. What about the mystery of the origins of where we come from? Did God create things in 6 days at a word? Or did it happen by chance over billions of years? Or take a middle ground. Maybe God set evolution in motion and made it happen. I mean, none of us were there. None of us know. None of the scientists can actually be eyewitnesses of what happened. We only see the results of what is here, and we try to understand it. And it's a mystery because you can look at it this way, you can look at it that way, and whether you believe that it was a process of evolution or whether you think it came in a word, it still takes faith to believe it on either way. There comes a point when even the scientists have to say, but there's an element of faith to be able to accept this theory or to be able to see things in a certain way. And so when it comes to it, it's faith, and we'll probably never have anything that will show us a confirmation of when and how and why everything began in the very beginning. But we do know this, that we can praise God because we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. Even if we don't understand the origins that well, and there's a lot of mystery to it, we do know that there's a creator who created it, and he did it because he's wonderful, and what he does is wonderful. And we can enjoy creation. We can enjoy our bodies. We can enjoy our relationships because God is the one that's created them. And when God created everything, he said it was what? Good. He said it is good. And it definitely is a good thing. So enjoy creation. Enjoy the mystery. Enjoy the understanding and learning about everything that God has made. And remember that no matter what, it takes a step of faith. Faith is a part of it. You know, maybe it's a coincidence, but perhaps when God was putting our bodies together, and our bodies made of all these little cells, every little cell in our body has a cell, a molecule, that basically holds it together, kind of a glue, kind of a sort of adhesive. And that molecule is called laminin. And that laminin is in the shape of a cross. Can you imagine when the microscopes came along and they're looking at what's connecting all our cells of our body together? Something that's the shape of a cross. And maybe God put it that way because he wanted to remind us that just as he put all of our cells together, he wants the cross to mean something for our spirit, something for our soul. That he has a plan for us that is so big that even in the smallest molecules, God left a little imprint there that said, hey, when you see this, when you discover this, back in 1980 something or 90, whatever it is, that you'll go, that's interesting. That the adhesive molecule that holds our cells together reminds us of what Jesus has done for us. And even though God has created, he keeps recreating. I mean, every day you wake up and there's a brand new sunrise. Every summer, the leaves come back on the trees and the plants grow from the ground. Every winter, the snows come. Every life is born as a result of a recreation. God didn't just stop with Adam and Eve. He kept it going and going and going. And we glory in the creation of human life as it develops in the womb. But more important than that, all of creation, all of science reminds us that God is not just recreating things and people, but he's recreating our spirits as well. I mean, if God can create and make and keep all this sustained and going, isn't he big enough to handle what's going on inside of us? We have a God that's that big and that personal, that he cares about us, not just our bodies to help us to get up and walk, but he cares about our souls so that we can have a relationship with him, that sin no longer has to be a wall that divides us. But Jesus came in and made a way. And even Jesus himself, when he went around healing people, one of the things that he said, I'm doing this, I'm showing you that I have power over your body so that you'll trust that I have power on what's inside of you. If I can heal what's in your body, I can heal what's inside of you. I can heal your sin, I can forgive it. I can make you whole and new inside. And if that is the most supernatural thing of all, not only that God can handle the laws of nature, but he can handle what is on the inside of us. And he can wash our sins away. Science is great. Faith is great. We can embrace them both. We can embrace the mystery. But when it comes down to it, we walk by faith. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And as we celebrate the cross through the cup, through the bread, we remember that not only are our cells knitted together and held by him, but our hearts can be as well, and he makes us anew. So let's worship him and trust him during this time as we go into the communion service. We invite everybody who calls upon the name of Jesus for their salvation, for their forgiveness, to participate. This is something for all of us, no matter what church you go to, what denomination, This is a time of faith in Jesus Christ. We invite you to the table. And before we do that, we're going to sing one stanza